I would love you to give your full attention to Ms. Kelly Charles Collins, empowers leaders and employees to build conversational cultures, master the skill of effectively engaging in difficult conversations, and develop signature talks and presentations that intrigue, transform, and shift audiences. Listen, that's a lot going on. All right? Y'all get your notes together. Get ready. Please welcome Kelly to the stage. Y'all ready? You ready? You see just what you got. No, not on my watch. Bring what you got. Bring what you got. I'm going to the top, to the top, to the top, to the top. Yeah, it ain't gonna work. Is this serious or humor? So July 2018, I was minding my business on my LinkedIn. And I was scrolling down, and all of a sudden I saw this post. And the post was about mansplaining. And I was like, yep, sure want to post this on my LinkedIn. So I posted that on my LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden, I got a text message. And the text message said, is this serious or humor? Oh, it's serious. It's real serious. So back and forth, I go with this person about my text message, about my post that I put on LinkedIn. And they wanted to know, sure, okay, I get that. But how does this promote our business, what we're trying to do for small business owners? Well, see, at the time, I was the employment lawyer for the firm. So mansplaining had everything to do with what I do. So we went back and forth, and with every blue and gray bubble that came up, my blood was boiling. My blood pressure was going up, because I was like, this is my social media. So we went back and forth. And when we were done, I got to the point, I was just like, you know what? We're just going to agree to disagree. But I thought about it, and I was like, there has to be something. It can't be about the mansplaining. This really can't be why this person is in my text messages. So, against my better judgment, with my blood pressure in the roof, I decided I'm going to go back and read these text messages. And I found this one. This was the real issue. He said, what I do see is a steady promotion of areas of your interest or concern on a personal level. If I compare your social media presence over the last year, it has markedly changed. So you monitoring my social media? Like you just all up in my business? Oh, he was all up in my business. Y'all want to know who this was? It was my boss. This was my boss sending me these text messages. But see, I had given him permission to do this because a year or so earlier, I had been on my Twitter account, and I was all on my Twitter account talking about what I feel. And he called me to talk to me about my Twitter account. So he said what he had to say, and I had just started working there not too long, and so I was like, I'm gonna be a good soldier. So I deleted every single thing I had posted on my Twitter account. So this time, I was like, no, not on my watch. you're not going to get me to delete this. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to agree to disagree. See, the thing for him was that he was upset that I had run afoul of the societal programming, right? The societal programming that tells us as women, speak when spoken to, finish. Y'all know it? Speak when spoken to, answer when called, right? It is the societal programming that tells us to stick to the script. The script where you're not supposed to interrupt. The script where you're supposed to act like a lady. The script where you're not supposed to be too loud, too bright, too smart. The script where you're not supposed to brag. But what do they say? It ain't bragging if it's true. But that's not how we've been conditioned as women, particularly as black women. We've been told to wait our turn, but here's what happens. Our turn never comes. And they have us fighting to get a seat at the table. And I know this might rub some of y'all the wrong way, but you know that saying about if you don't get a seat at the table, bring a folding chair? Don't bring no damn chair. Because where is it going? So you're going to bring your little folding chair and take it and put it where? In the back of the room? For what? You are the table. So you don't need a folding chair, nor do you need a seat at their table. The script is designed to hold you back. They've even created something to make you think that you're not as badass as you are. You know those doubts you have, the uncertainty, that little tingling of fear, that anxiety that you get? They created a whole sickness for y'all. Right? That. Imposter syndrome. And I know that there's people who are like, no, it really exists, Kelly. They say 70% of us have it. We don't have no imposter syndrome. Stop claiming things that don't belong to you. Right? Because I understand the power of words. And words matter. And the imposter means fake. And syndrome means sickness. And I know, because I see my sisters all up in here, that if somebody came up to you and said, you're a sick fraud, you'll be taking off your earrings, putting Vaseline on your face, got your hair in a ponytail, ready to fight. So why? Why would you say that about yourself? Why would you say that about yourself? Imposter syndrome does not belong to you. Do not claim it. All you have are signals. The things that are telling you either stop, slow down, or keep going, sis. That's what's happening. There's nothing fake about you. There's nothing imposterish about you. No, they're not going to find you out. What they're going to find out is that you're exactly who you say you are. But you got to know that first. You have to know that first, and that's why I'm here. That's why it says, take up space, sis. Because see, if I had listened to him, it would have resulted in career stagnation and missed opportunities. Because see, if I had deleted everything like I did last time, if I was a good soldier, like I was the first time, then my plan that I had put in place starting in 2017 to transition out of the full-time practice of law to become a full-time speaker would have been derailed. When George Floyd was murdered on May 25th, and all of the companies were calling people to do listening sessions and diversity training and unconscious bias training, had I stopped doing what I was doing, what he said markedly changed on your social media, what I was doing was building my brand, because I knew I was leaving. And had I not done that, then when the time came and the opportunity was there for companies to be flooding my inbox and blowing up my phone and allowing me to replace my $200,000 a year salary in less time than I got it the year working at his office, I would not be where I am today. I would have had career stagnation and missed opportunities. But see, what we also have to know is that when we speak up, they don't like it. People don't like it. So I told him, let's agree to disagree. He ain't like that. So what did he do? He went on a campaign. For the next several months, he went on a campaign. And the campaign was to stop speaking to me. The campaign was, I was a partner in this law firm, just let y'all know this. The campaign was that when I was in a room with another lawyer or one of the staff members, he would come to the door and he would not come in if I was in there. This is a man who lived in my office. This is a man who asked me for everything, and I was the one who was doing everything in the firm related to employment law. And what they started to do was not tell me things. What they started to do is not assign me work and then complain about it. So one day they called me into HR, and I was sitting there and I said, I'm gonna curse for a second, sorry. I said, y'all know this is bullshit. You know I'm leaving. I know I'm leaving. It's just which one of us is gonna do it first. But I wanted them to know that I knew exactly what they were doing, because they were planning my exit, but so was I, right? Because I knew that this was coming. See, the fallout of living into other people's shallow thoughts of you, living into the desires that other people have for you, is that you feel diminished, you feel devalued, and you'll feel disempowered. And that was their goal for me. Their goal was to do all of that. And on October 22nd, 2019, they put their plan in motion. And on that day, they told me they could no longer, they said to me, at the end of the year, you will no longer be employed because we cannot afford to pay you. If I had listened, if I had done what he wanted me to do, I would not have been prepared to be in the place that I am in today. This is really, really important for you all to understand. It's important for you to get that you cannot let somebody else dictate how your life goes. Nicole talked about having a vision and not everybody having that vision. The vision was given to you. You're responsible for the execution of that vision. And when we talk about being diminished and devalued and disempowered, what I want you to know is that it does not have to be that way. Because your voice is your superpower. That voice, whether it's your voice being expressed in writing or your voice being expressed verbally, it is your superpower. But before I tell you how you can leverage your superpower, before I tell you what we need to do in this world to make sure that you don't end up on the other side of where he was trying to put me, I need you to agree with me about a couple of things. One, I need you to be more committed to your elevation than you are to your erasure. You agree to that? Because what's happening in this world, women are under attack. We are under attack from all angles, from everywhere, from everyone. And unfortunately, sometimes that attack is coming from inside the house. Inside the house. We, as women, are complicit in our own erasure. We are complicit. Why? Because we're not doing the things that we need to do. Why? Because when we as women get into spaces and get that seat at the table, we're so afraid to bring other women in because we believe that if I bring them in, I'm going to have to get up out that seat. So what if you do? What if you do? What if you do have to get up out of that seat? But because we are not willing to risk, we are complicit. There was a post going around on social media this couple of weeks, and a couple of posts. And because it's Women's History Month, happy International Women's Day. Because it's Women's History Month, we were talking about women and speaking and whether women are being paid to speak and whether or not they should be paid to speak. And one of the women said, we have to get to the point where we will say no as a collective. Because the ones of us who say yes make it so that the ones of us who say no are the problem. Right? We have to be willing to forego and to sacrifice for the good of the collective. But there's so many of us who are not willing to do that. And yes, I understand. I know that a lot of this is systemic. I know that. However, we have to be really honest. She talked about telling the truth and shaming the devil. It's one of my favorite things to say. As women, as Black women, we have to be prepared to tell the truth and shame the devil. Now, what's the second thing that I need you to agree with me on? This comes from Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison says that accepting that freeing myself is one thing, but taking ownership of that freed self is another. Who in here is like, I want freedom, I'm free? Who's here? Right? We all want this freedom, whether it's in the corporate space, it's in the entrepreneurial space. I met a beautiful woman during the icebreaker, and she's retired in the retirement space. We all want to be there, right? Retirement. But we accept that there is a path to freedom. We have not yet owned that freedom. And because we haven't owned that freedom, we find ourselves in spaces where you delete your Twitter when somebody asks you a question about it. When you own your freed self, you tell them, oh no, this is serious, and we're going to agree to disagree. Because in that moment, this is where you harness the power of who you are. This is how we come to this space where we can be everything that we desire to be our truly unapologetic selves. You know, I signed my emails, live life unapologetically AF. My poor dad, he's like, Kelly, what's AF? It's all right, you don't need to know that part, just, right? We have to do that. You see, when he did all of the things that he was doing, and I was watching him every day, watching. One of my superpowers is watching. One of my superpowers is being observant. And what I know is that your actions will betray your words. So all of us in here who are like, yeah, girl, I got you. Yeah, sis. I'm going to support you. I'm going to do whatever. And the time comes and you're like, well, girl, you know, I got something else to do. Something came up. Nothing came up. Nothing came up. What came up for you is the inability to own your own freedom and realize that when you speak up, when you stand up, when you show up for another woman, it takes nothing from you. It actually elevates you. It amplifies you. It affirms you. And until you get that deep into your soul, until you understand that about life, you will never be successful. You will achieve some success. You will never be successful. You will never be truly free. We're always looking for freedom. Freedom is one of my core values. It's the reason why I'm here and not in a courtroom. I loved being a lawyer. I loved trying cases, and I was damn good at it. But there was a box. See that same man that was in my text messages? One day, I saw a video. Y'all probably saw it. The woman who was being dragged across the ground by the cops at the Waffle House, and her dress and her boobs, everything was all out. And I said to him, I was like, we need to say something about this. Like, we need to do something about this. And he said, no, we can't. That's our client. So what that told me was that money was more important than that black woman, which meant what? I ain't have a chance because I'm that black woman. And that, I just started to switch. I was like, I got you. I got you. You have to think about the spaces that you're in, the people that you're around, the things that people are saying to you, the things that you see every single day that you're just taking in like, that's nothing. People will continue to do to you what you allow them to do. They will continue to let you be diminished, devalued, disempowered, because you give them permission to do that. But I told y'all, it doesn't have to be that way, right? It does not have to be that way. So how do we change it? What do we do? I said, your voice is your superpower. So it should be no surprise that what we do is speak. But we're not just going to say, oh, just speak, because that's not how Kelly rolls. If y'all know, my nickname is the Speaker Mogul. So I don't just tell y'all to speak. I got to give all of it to you. So let's talk about what it means to speak. It means to strategically communicate. No more of this just saying whatever we want to say because we want to say it. No more of this matching energy. We don't match energy. That is a low vibrational sport. We do not match energy. Because if you are matching someone, you have made them the standard. And we don't do that around here. So we have to learn to strategically communicate. What does this mean? This means that when we open our mouth for a reason. When we open our mouth, we do it with intention. We do it with purpose. We do it with an objective in mind. One of the things about me is that I am a professional speaker and I can speak in front of anybody in the whole world. I don't care, but I am a very quiet person. I am a very quiet person because I want you to know that when I speak, I need to be like E.F. Hutton and everybody listens, right? I don't speak aimlessly. I don't like small talk. I speak very intentionally. I speak very strategically. And this is something that we as women have to learn how to do. We get into situations and we get in, yes, like they say, sometimes all up in our feelings. And because we're in our feelings, we forget. We forget. Why are we here? Why am I in this conversation? And now we're on all over here when we're supposed to be right here. Strategic communication requires that you know the intention and you know the objective. If you know those two things, those are the bookends to your conversation, because if at any time you're going outside of those two things, you are off track. That is not a strategic communication. So we have to strategically communicate. We have to position from why, our why, not their why. One of the things I work with my clients on, I work with women speakers, or brilliant women actually, who have a deep level of expertise to help you really find your uniqueness and to create messages around that so that you can monetize it. And one of the very first things that we do is we work on developing and uncovering your why. Too many of us are walking around here just doing things to be doing things. Why? Why are you doing it? Why are you at that job? Why do you want to start a business? Why do you want to write a book? Why are you still with that man? Why are you still with that woman? What are we doing? Why? It has to be positioned from there. Because when you can speak from your why, there is nobody else in the world who can do it like you do it. It is your unfactor. It is the thing that makes you uniquely you. The reason I do what I do when it comes to speaking and helping women in speaking is because my mission is to ensure that women's value is not erased. That is my why. When I speak about building conversational cultures and disrupting unconscious bias, I do that because my son was victimized by the police, and I need to ensure that he doesn't become the next hashtag. That is my why. I don't care how many people talk about unconscious bias or how many people teach people how to speak. It will never come through that lens. That is my lens. Your why is your lens. Nobody can fight you on that. They'll try. They'll try, but they can't. So you got to figure out your why. You have to use your voice to expand, to elevate, and sometimes to exit, right? I knew that I had a voice. I had been practicing law for over 2 decades, trying cases in state and federal court, in front of juries and judges and administrative agencies. I know how to speak. I know how to convince an audience. I know how to advocate. And so I started to look at, what are my skills? What am I really, really good at? And how could I leverage that to get out of the box that I was in? Now, I'm not telling y'all to quit your job. Don't go out here saying Kelly said I'm quitting. So no, do not go out here and quit your job. But if you are thinking about what else there is, you have to look at who you are. Your why helps you to do that, right? Understanding strategic communication helps you to do that. Figure out, do I want to stay in this space and just expand? What does that look like? Do I want to stay in this space and elevate? Or do I want to exit? See, I had to create my exit strategy. 1, because I knew there was more. I knew that I could create a bigger impact in the world. And 2, because they were creating it too. Right? I knew at some point I was no longer going to have the job. So we have to start looking at that. We have to start being our best advocates, our own best advocates, and understanding the power of our voices. And then we need to amplify your authority. So this is what made him mad, right? Because what I started doing was posting things, and I stopped hashtagging the firm, right? Or adding the firm. And I was posting things so that I could develop my business that I was building while I was still working. So you have to understand how to amplify your authority. Y'all are smart. Y'all are brilliant. Y'all are badass. Show up like it. Show up like it. Enough of the cat memes. They're all right. But when you're in spaces and you're thinking about elevating, you're thinking about expanding, you're thinking about exiting, the conversation has to change. Who you show up as in the world has to change. People have to see you in a different light. So you have to take what you know and package that and then put that out into the world so that people see you differently, so people accept you as different. When I started my business full-time in 2020, right before the pandemic, said, sis, sit down, I didn't know that people had been watching me. And so when my phone started ringing, I'm like, well, how do you know all this? And people said to me, oh, I thought you've been doing this for years. It is about building up who you are because nobody else is going to do it for you. And so I was building my personal brand, which threatened him, and it will threaten people. But you have to do it anyway because it's not for them. It's for you. And you have to know your value. You notice I didn't say your worth. People always talk about, girl, know your worth. Know your worth and add tax. Know your worth, but it has nothing to do with money, right? I want you to get in the habit of separating the conversation around worth and value. If you do not, and you put a monetary amount on your worth, you can get your feelings hurt. A lot. Right? It has nothing to do with your self-worth. It has to do with value. So if you put the monetary amount on the value that you bring to the table, which you'll know because you'll start to do the work, right? I'm going to give you some other stuff where you do the work. Then it becomes a transaction so that when somebody says, I'm not paying you that amount. No, that invoice is too high. No, your price for coaching is too much. You don't take that as a personal affront. They just don't see the value in the exchange. So we have to remove that conversation. It is not about your worth. So 2 things I want y'all to make sure that y'all leave in this room. Knowing your worth and imposter syndrome. I need y'all to leave those here. Okay? But that's one thing, right? So this is some of the stuff that we need to do. But I want to invite you into something. I want to invite you into the place that Toni Morrison said that you should be. I want to invite you into that ownership of freedom place. Y'all want to go there? Yes. You want to go? Yes. I can't hear you. Yes. Okay. So I want to welcome you to the V-Suite. The V-Suite is where women own their vision, their voice, their visibility, and their value. You don't need an invitation. You don't need a folding chair. You just need the desire, the commitment, the belief, and the willingness to take action. See, when we think about vision, what I want you to understand is that you get to design the life that you desire and deserve. But that life, I want you to think about, like, what is the lifestyle that I want to live? When I was going off into this whole, entrepreneurial thing, I did a whole chart. My sister said, do this chart and write down all the things that you want to do, like all these things. Because I said I was going to start an HR consulting business because I was an employment lawyer. So yeah, I'm going to do this HR consulting. So I did this whole chart one day. I was so excited. And I wrote that I was going to do handbooks, and I was going to do HR audits, and I was going to do all this stuff. And I wrote it all down. Posted it on the door of our guest room. And that night I got in my bed. And I was thinking about all the stuff that I had written down. And I was like, I don't want to do any of this shit. I had created like 10 jobs for myself. When I thought about it, and I was like, your core value is freedom. And I had created these jobs. I was like, you just left the people's job. Where are you going? So the vision has to be based on the lifestyle. And it needs to incorporate your senses. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? And I know people always say, Kelly, your life and vision don't have no taste and no smell. And going Walmart versus going in Tiffany. You guys smell, right? So when you're creating your vision, they say write the vision and make it plain. And you have to design the life that you want, the life that you desire, the life that you deserve, and then build everything else inside of that, not the other way around. That means build the job into the life. That means build the business into the life. That means build the people into the life. We are very bad about building their lives, their desires, their lifestyles, and fitting us in. When you're in the V-suite, where you own that freed self, you get to create the vision that you want. You can't get to create the life that you deserve. And once you create that vision, I need you to use your voice, and I need you to speak up, and I need you to speak out. I need you to not accept the first thing that's being offered to you. I need you to negotiate those salaries. But I also need you to know when silence is powerful. Leveraging your voice is not always about speaking. It's about knowing when to speak. The power of silence. You know they say silence is deadly? It is. But it's also very powerful. And we have to know when to use it. And we have to be visible. Now, this doesn't mean be everywhere all the time. That's not what I'm talking about. Being visible means optimizing your presence. It means showing up in the spaces where you need to be. It means making your presence and your absence felt. See, we don't have to be everywhere. We just need to be where we need to be. We just need to be visible to who needs to see us. And then we have to, again, know our value. Why do we need to know our value? We need to know our value so we can do what? Demand it. Right? Demand it. But until you create the vision, until you leverage your voice, until you optimize your visibility, you will not show up in a way that allows you to command your value. There's a reason that I was one being called when George Floyd was murdered. People know me. Because I had shown up. And when I told them how much they were going to pay me to do what they needed me to do, they paid it because I showed up in that way. It's really important for y'all to get this. It's really important for you to understand that you are in charge of your legacy. It's really important for you to understand that this is the way to be deprogrammed. This is the way to leave imposter syndrome where they found it. That is not a Me Too moment. You are brilliant. You are a badass. Before I leave, though, just like she did, I'm going to ask you. Share your ahas and takeaways with me. If you click on, she just told you how to do it. I know y'all know how to do it, so I don't have to explain it. And you'll get a free gift. But I'm not done. We're going to wrap this up in just a minute. But share with me your aha moments, your takeaways. What came to your gut? Like, what shifted you? What transformed in you today? What are you going to do? Who are you going to be, most importantly? Who are you going to be? And when you're done, if you just look up for me. Thank you all for that. I want to leave you with a few things, but one I want to leave you with is this quote, and this is the motto that I live by every day. It says that I belong everywhere I am, but I don't belong everywhere. What does that mean? That means that any room that I find myself in, I have no question that I should be there. Other people might, but that's on them. I know I'm supposed to be there. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I bring to the table. I know I am the table. But I also know that I don't belong everywhere. And what that means is not every room deserves my presence. You know, people are always like, girl, I want you to come over here. Come do this. I want you to be in this. And no. We have to get very discerning. We have to get very bougie. Right? We have to get very bougie about who we are and who we attach ourselves to, who we allow to attach themselves to us. My charge for you is that you leave here owning your freed self. My charge for you is that you step into the V-suite where there is no application required. My charge for you as we leave here today is that you take up space, sis. Thank you.
That was dynamic. How's everybody doing?